Hello out there, and welcome to Mr. Ripper's Cozy Wintertime Chalet by the Fire. I am your friend, Dave Makes Noises, and today we're asking the homebrew DMs of our community to share their homebrew worlds with us. And go! I'm currently working on my own setting and would love to hear what other DMs are doing. My pitch is that the equivalent of the Feywilds are bleeding into the material plane, slowly overtaking the land over the last century, and society is having to adapt. Plants change and become hostile. Spirits whisk away people in their sleep. Entire towns choked out by an encroaching sea of razor-sharp grass the color of sunset sky. Trade routes are becoming overgrown. Nations are becoming strained as the wilds consume more of their land each year. Rumor has it that the rich and magical elites of one nation plan to lift the entire country into the sky and live in a lavish utopia. The gods are thieves. Rather than build their own world, they pilfered races, monsters, and entire swaths of planes from other prime material planes. I thought it was a fun in-game excuse for most of the D&D rules to be the same in a homebrew world. And it makes the Gith really weird since they're the only ones left other than the ancient dragons who can remember any of it. Actually, with the other aspects of the world that relate to what the players are dealing with, the Gith know more than the most ancient dragons now. The Astral Sea is fun. In my world, there is a legend about 3 heroes who completed the trials of an ancient god known as Icarus. Afterwards, each of them had a wish granted. While the others wished for great powers to achieve their goals, one of them chose to become the king of his homeland, both to save it from the civil war that was erupting there and to give his family the best possible life he could give them. His new friends helped him, and his kingdom was known as the greatest there has been in all of history. Fast forward to after the king and most of his companions have passed on due to old age, there are lots of people who are vying for the throne. This then creates a massive battle between 2 factions, one which backs the king's son, and the other which backs the king's adopted son. This conflict evolved into a 100-year war, until the 2 sides further split into 4. And the conflict evolved into the Desolation War, which lasted 400 years, until a new group of heroes ended the conflict. The 4 separate factions then formed their own kingdoms in different parts of the country. 300 years later, a new conflict is on the horizon. An unknown army has destroyed the central city of the continent, which was once the symbol of peace for all the kingdoms. No one knows who is behind this new army, but as the 4 kingdoms search for a culprit, the tensions between them are once again boiling to the surface. With the country about to tear itself apart again, it's up to a party of misfits to prevent the catastrophic conflict from happening. My world, known as Eld, has been in constant development since the days of advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and has been used for every game that I have run as a DM. I have a world map, maps of most of the countries, many of the larger cities, rich and detailed histories that, over the years, have made many PCs into heroes, and even legendary figures. It uses the pre-Seric Forgotten Realms pantheon, with some changes made by the actions of players. For example, Sune, goddess of beauty and love, has become a sister goddess to Loviatar, the maiden of pain, due to an alliance that was forged not out of desperation, but of respect between the 2 high priestesses of one of the most epic campaigns I've ever run. Roleplay was brilliant and emotionally powerful to bring it about. It's really a whole story on its own. Legends, homebrewed artifacts, and so much more. It's been a labor of love that may never end. Welcome to the Nexus of Yggdrasil. It's a world where land masses called shells orbit an exposed world core. Shell 1 is furthest from the core and contains a nation of people who claim they're the descendants of the gods. Shell 3 is your basic fantasy D&D setting with dungeons to explore and a touch of the Feywild in the forest. Shell 5 is half Eberron and half Fifth Element / the Matrix, and the 2 sides are at war with each other. Shell 7 is a hellhole saturated with the dense evil radiation from the core, which has a high chance of ruining your day. Speaking of the core, it is a prison for a great evil that the gods fought long ago before half of them died or vanished, while the other half walk amongst the population, struggling to maintain what little divine power they still hold. Do you dare uncover the secret histories of the gods to discover how to reverse their decline, or perhaps accelerate it? Or perhaps you'd rather have a conquest adventure and side with a faction from Shell 5, leading them to total domination over their enemy once and for all before conquering the other shells? Would you rather solve mysteries and make powerful friends while being handsomely rewarded for your efforts, or perhaps rise to power as the head of your own organization? The noir neon streets of Shell 4 would love to have you. There's something for everyone, whether you want a sprawling adventure across radically different settings and environments to see it all, or a more focused, localized adventure in one shell. There is something for you here. I was thinking about creating a campaign with one of these settings. Number 1 would be a classic campaign on a continent where gem dragons exist, even though they are said to be deceased from existence. Second one is something based on the anime Danmachi, with gods from the Egyptian, Norse, Roman, and Greek pantheon living in our world, giving mortals a chance to become demigods if they can overcome 100 tests of strength, intelligence, and wisdom. My players are unaware of the fact that they're not, in fact, on a post-apocalyptic medieval fantasy Earth as the lore says they are, but are in fact on an alien planet. Their entire planet is a manufactured theme park. Much like Westworld or The Truman Show, their entire lives have been ordained and engineered to follow a particular storyline by the corporation that runs the park/show. The players' characters are the NPCs of this world. Like in Westworld, real people can pay top dollar to come on set and become one of the heroes of the story, with the players' characters and other NPCs treated as expendable assets to be used and abused. Some guest stars are good guys, some are literally unkillable bad guys. The park can't have paying customers dying on them after all. The magics they've been wielding are actually advanced technology designed to emulate magic to the human eye. The world's history itself has been entirely fabricated, its people having perfectly constructed, implanted memories. The mysterious G-Man-like entity, codenamed Aeon, that has been helping them, isn't as benevolent as they think he is. Aeon is a corporate saboteur from a rival corporation, seeking to derail the corporation's storyline plans by subtly influencing the PCs. Like a disruptive D&D player to a meticulous DM, Aeon has been grooming the PCs to one day mass murder a large group of these guest stars for real and for good in one attack. This would undoubtedly cause such controversy that the corporation might even need to abandon the theme park, leaving the PCs to figure out their own fates without invisible puppet masters guiding them. One of my players is becoming suspicious of the world he's in. His character found a strange text describing what it called an upcoming event, written as if it were a screenplay by the author story department. The event has already happened, just as described. My current big project is Aquaria, a continent inspired by the myth of Atlantis. In ancient times, a group of mages banded together and tried to ascend to godhood, and the gods, enraged, struck them down and sunk the continent into the ocean. Today, the inhabitants survive under a magic dome that protects what parts of the continent didn't go completely underwater. It's basically a mixture of classic fantasy and Atlantis with a variety of nations, and the sea elves becoming more and more aggressive towards the people of Aquaria. There's also an ancient dragon turtle that rules one of the nations. I have various other ideas I plan to work on. Teradith, which is a gas lamp fantasy setting based on the Industrial Revolution with a mixture of fantasy and steampunk. Dahuraas, which is a setting entirely set in the Underdark after the surface got devastated by something I haven't decided yet, so the traditionally surface-dwelling and underground-dwelling races have to coexist. Feira Da'ar, which is in the same setting as Aquaria, but not underwater, whose culture is built around dragons and the two dragon gods of the setting. And a setting I haven't named yet, which is somewhat inspired by SCP, where magic is all but forgotten by the world after a great war, save by a few organizations who keep it under wraps or use it to fight one. Salutations, my sweet, sweet stroopwafels of boundless cosmic joy, and thank you for slithering your sensory tendrils in our vicinity, and for doing so to the very end of this video. If you have a homebrew world you would like to share with the community, please feel free to do so in the comments. And if you've got another story you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so within our official subreddit, r/MrRipper, where we are constantly combing for comments to cultivate and combine into videos like these for folks who, like us, enjoy us some Dungeons and Dragons. If you're a DM or player looking for a group, we might have your fix over at Mr. Ripper's Group Finder Discord server, which, as the name would have you believe, exists to help you find a group to play with. I hope this week that you sleep well. I have been Dave Makes Noises. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Dave Makes Noises. I finally convinced Rip Daddy to join TikTok, so go tell Rip Daddy you love him on our official TikTok, Mr. Ripper D&D. Thank you again for watching. Please sub for Nat 20s. Ring the bell if you're about that timing. Be well, and we will see you next time.